I just want to tell you thank you for welcoming me, my family. We call you guys our family, so I just want to let you know that. We've been here attending St. Timothy's for over 12 years. God has blessed me with a beautiful husband, Sid, who is sitting over there, and two beautiful sons, Mark and Nick, as well as a life story that I would like to share with you today. I brought my little Kleenex here. But first, I would like to share with you one of the most impactful scriptures that speak to me so deeply. Jeremiah 29, 11 through 14. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me. I will listen to you. You will see me and find me when you search for me with all of your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and I will restore your fortunes. I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back to the places from where I sent you into exile. God calls us to have a personal relationship with him. That is why he sent his son Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I would like to share with you, my family, the love that Jesus has shown me through my life, the love that brought me where I am today. Looking back through my eyes as a young girl of 10, it was my earliest recollection of Jesus in my life. I was brought up in the Catholic faith and Catholic education. I was taught to love God, pray to God through rehearsed words that meant only words to me. I didn't understand what it meant to have a personal, loving relationship with Jesus. Again, looking back, I realized and understand he was there every step of the way. As I mentioned, my earliest recollection of trying to wrap my thoughts around Jesus and who he was. 10, fourth grade, it's really hard. Growing up Catholic meant attending Mass and confession every week. For a child that age, going to confession was pretty lonely and scary. I remember being in church, sitting, waiting my turn to enter into the confessional and confess all the bad things I did that week to a grown-up I really didn't even know. As I was sitting there, I started to look around and ended up fixing my eyes on Jesus, on the crucifix, and wondering why I would need to confess my sins to someone other than Jesus. He was right there. I was a shy child and a child that was a pleaser, so I was very much apprehensive to ask any questions outside of what I was taught. I just obeyed. Looking back, Jesus was calling me then to come to him as a child, calling me to think of him and wonder what it would be like to be able to love him close and not from a distance, a personal relationship. I knew I was different than most of the people that were in my life and deep thought about many things. It seemed that my emotions ran deeper than most, and sometimes I felt extremely lonely. Sometimes it felt that I was looking from the inside out, as if my life was a movie, real distant. I was often passed over because I was different in thoughts and actions. When I was 12, and I don't remember where I was, what I was doing at the time, but I do remember a strong wanting was placed on my heart to be a mom. I remember my mind being flooded with so many things I wanted to learn and do. Things like knitting, sewing, painting, and one day being able to meet the man that I would love and be loved by, and someday have little ones, a family. Not much else ever came to me as far as a life path. Looking back, God was giving me subtleties of what he made me for. I have to admit that I took things into my own hands and set off on my own path. Yes, I did get married and have children, but I didn't consult him as to whom he made just for me. And as I know now, whatever is not of him will not last. I became a very young divorced mom, raising 2 small children, 2 sons. Many of my days seemed to be on automatic pilot, with the mundane things of life, just barely having time to breathe and take care of myself. Trying to balance family work and the unforeseen struggles of life. Many a night I was in tears, reading God's word and pleading with him to ease the pain. My life pieces felt like they were all mixed up, put in a shaker, and thrown on the floor so far apart I couldn't even reach them. So many pieces I couldn't fathom how I was going to pick them all up and put them back together. Just when I thought life was flowing smoothly, sometimes something would happen that would send me in a spiral of anxiety. I remember losing my job and feeling helpless and buried with a burden, wondering how I was going to feed my family. This was before the internet, before home computers, at least at my house. Both of my boys were at school this day, and I was at the kitchen table searching through the employment section of the newspaper in desperation. It had been at least 4 weeks since I had income coming in. I had the newspaper scattered in front of me, trying to make sense of it all. I had tears running down my face, sobbing endlessly. I got up from the table to either turn off the TV or turn it on, I can't remember. But as I reached out to touch the on-off button, I heard a prominent voice say to me, "Stop and know that I am God." I gasped for air in awe. I didn't have a question. I knew it was him. I had just read the same exact passage days before. I would have never thought that God would have loved me so much, that he would talk directly to me and pierce the depths of my soul with those powerful words. A peace came over me, knowing that the Lord over my life was watching over me and reminding me that I need to trust him, that relying on myself to take the lead with my life will only bring disappointment, exhaustion, and uncertainty. I'm here to say that God is good. Shortly thereafter, I was blessed with a position close to home, enabling me to work and be close to my responsibilities, especially my children. Through this position, I met my sunshine friend. I hope that everyone in this room today will at some point in their life say that they have a sunshine friend. It is awesome looking back to see how God is working and placing you right where he wants you to receive him. I always liked having conversations with my sunshine friend. She always had a smile on her face and always treated everyone with kindness. One day we were having a conversation and I asked her, "Where can I get what you have?" She put a really big smile on her face and said, if it was okay with me, she would like to introduce me to her Jesus. And I'm thinking, isn't Jesus for everyone? But she knew what she was talking about. What I came to know by her saying my Jesus was that she had an intimate and a personal relationship with him. She told me that she had conversations with him daily. She would talk with him about anything and everything, not just privately in silence, but out loud. My sunshine friend would spend time with me, sharing the love of Jesus and her love for me. I am forever thankful to God for putting her in my life. Looking back, my sunshine friend was the hands of Christ being placed on my life. For all of us, we are taught by others what love can look like or feel like. But I'm here to tell you that love isn't love until it has Jesus written all over it. The love of Christ through my beautiful friendship with my sunshine friend started to change me. And at this point, I was born again. My walk was strengthening, but I was still a baby taking baby steps. I was trying to stay on the path that we all are called as Christians to walk, but stumbling and getting back up again. I was not grounded in church, but attending services here at St. Timothy. I'm going to be completely honest. I was still trying to make my own way most of the time. I was looking for the good things in life in the wrong places. Until one day I woke up in exhaustion, asking myself, is this all there is to life? I was trying to be the best person I could be in all aspects of my life. I was tired of beating my head against the wall and not having the peace of it all. Then it occurred to me that I was ultimately tired of making my own decisions. Decisions of where to go to find all the missing pieces that would make me complete. In tears, once again, I humbled myself and surrendered my heart to Jesus. Broken and tattered as it was, my heart was yearning for God to send me someone, and Him with me, that I could share my life with. Certainly, if God made me with a beating heart to be a wife and a mother, but He had someone just for me. I remember the promise that God gave to us after reading His word. It's Psalm 37:4. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. So that night, my heart just poured out to Him. I told Him that I knew that He loved me. I repented and asked for forgiveness for thinking that I could do this, to find the love that He created for me without Him. I told Him that I didn't know what that person would look like, but I knew He would be beautiful because He would be a gift from God. I continued the pouring out of my heart, desiring a man that had a heart for God, and that this man would be one that was a hard worker but not willing to sacrifice his family for the things of this world. That this man would love me and I him as God intended, a blessing for us and our children. That night I never felt so connected, lighthearted, and at peace. God is good. Not long after, God introduced me to my wonderful and loving husband, Sid. Two broken halves wanting to be whole. We were married here at St. Timothy, becoming part of a wonderful, godly family. The one thing that Sid and I have vowed to God and each other is that we are determined to change the legacy of our family. The new family legacy of being God-centered and growing our relationship with Him and sharing Him with our family, friends, and strangers. So, as I close today, I really think through all of my life, God has yearned for each one of us and has made each one of us to be in a very close relationship with Him, not making our own decisions and falling into the traps of this world. To find our purpose, ask Him what that is, because we don't know. We may think we do, but we don't. And to share Him, oh my gosh, to share Him. To allow our family, friends, and even strangers to have the salvation that God sent Jesus here for. So I'm just going to want to close and thank you for letting me share Jesus' heart with you as well as my own. Thank you.
Comfortable. Just get my notes ready. Yeah, I had this all planned out, and then, I don't know, last night, I rewrote the whole thing. So I am actually going to have to read this. I kind of had it a little bit memorized, but now I don't. But this is a much better message. Do y'all mind praying with me for a second? I'm a little nervous. God, it's John again. I know we've been talking a lot today. You've been helping me with this, and I just want to make sure that my message is right. So please, 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 let me speak what you want me to say. I know through you all things are possible, including me doing this. So be with me, Lord. Amen. Thank you. I struggled with prayer for a long time because I felt like it was like an admission of powerlessness. I never really liked letting go of the reins. I mean, I'm a little better now, but in no way am I cured. Just recently, I was going to vacation, and my wife was driving, and for some reason, I was exhausted because I couldn't sleep for days before because I don't like leaving town, because I don't like leaving my things, and I don't like being out of control. So I was exhausted, and I found myself not able to sleep in the car, as if somehow me being awake was going to prevent some cataclysm from occurring. It's ridiculous. If you were to have asked my family or my friends individually what my testimony would be about, I think some would probably guess addiction and substance abuse, and that's a pretty good one. Maybe others would say dishonesty and lies, and that would be appropriate and very true. Some might say sexual promiscuity, which might be less appropriate but equally accurate. I mean, those are the big three, for sure. And I really thought that those were my I thought so too. In fact, there have been multiple drafts of this testimony highlighting each one of those things as my Achilles heel. But as I said, God had a whole different message for me, and working on this brought some clarity to it. My Achilles heel is control. Control of how I feel and think, and what's infinitely worse is trying to control how other people feel and think. And it has been this pursuit, it's been the pursuit of this control that would distance myself from God's voice without even knowing it. For such an all-powerful creator, it always amazes me how God guides me with such a soft touch. Like so gentle you could choose to ignore it. Just little gentle nudges, like a parent teaching a child to ride a bike, following closely, behind, batting their child side to side just until they find their balance. Just gentle nudges. The thing is, we can veer off at any time if we stop feeling for the nudges, but as far as I can tell, God stays on our back wheel, patiently, gently suggesting a new route. I moved around a lot as a kid. I went to a lot of schools. I think I went to like 6 schools, which is a lot if you're not in the witness protection program. And it was during my early years that I developed a really, really bad habit of dishonesty, being dishonest. I never really fit in. I was kind of the perpetual new kid. I got into this habit of creating more and more interesting versions of myself to present to the people around me, which is kind of a nice way of saying I lied and lied and lied and lied about who I was. But it was really about control. I was trying to control what people thought about me and ultimately how they responded to me. And at least if they didn't like me, well, not really me. But the other side of that coin is true. If they like me, if they love me, not really me. I made a couple of friends who may have been entertained by my early antics. We were little and unsophisticated, so to some extent I probably succeeded in fooling some of them. But they never liked me. They still never liked me. If I were a betting man, I'd say that the device I used to gain acceptance was the very thing that kept me out of the group. Maybe the kids knew I was a liar. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just felt I was fake. Either way, they'd be right. I wish I could say when my family finally settled down that I quickly grew out of my lies and entered young adulthood with poise and integrity, but that would be a giant lie. My lies evolved, and I spiritually devolved. What once could have been dismissed as childhood self-puffery, exaggerations, morphed into this not-so-subtle, relentless one-upsmanship, even with the people that cared about me, even with my friends. And look, one-upping is obnoxious on any level, but coming from someone who had as a flexible relationship with the truth as I did, unbearable. No matter what, they'd say anything. I would just make something up to beat them. Crazy. It would be years and years and many lessons later that my best friend, Brian, who's actually sitting in the audience today, surprised me, would drop this atomic bomb on me. I was defending my old behaviors and cavalierly suggested, like, come on, man, you really think you would be friends with me if I wasn't so, over the top? And the guy looked at me like I was crazy, and with complete disbelief, and was like, dude, we liked you in spite of that. I never knew that. Never knew that. I thought I was fooling the world, and that's why I had what I had. But it's not true. See, I go off on a tangent, I lose where I am. There we are. I was working so hard to control how I was perceived, but my true friends, the handful of people on this planet, could see right through it, see through the muck, and occasionally get a glimpse of the real me, and that's what they were hanging around for. That's what they were putting up with, all the nonsense, for those little moments. I mean, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. That's actually a little bit later in the story. I want to take you back. I want to take you back without knocking this down. I'll take you back to high school. When I was in high school, I was full of my own fictions as I had ever been. I began to express interest in becoming an actor. Imagine that. I figured lying was already a hobby. May as well make it a way of life. Turned out I was pretty good at it. I mean, I have, and to this day, have a horrible case of stage fright. But to be able to get out of my skin for hours every day during rehearsal, that's what I was looking for. I felt like I deserved. And somebody let me in on a little secret and said that maybe I should start attending the youth group for that school, because the director of the theater program was also the director of the youth group. I don't mean to imply that there was a religious test to get a part in these plays, but 3 things did happen as a result of me attending the youth group. 1, I actually met the girl that would end up being my high school girlfriend and compel me to keep going back to youth group. 2, I would experience the power of God for the first time in my life. And 3, I started getting cast in way better roles. But let's focus on the second one. And in this pursuit of this particular girl, I became a peer minister for the youth group for all the wrong reasons. I mean, we attended this giant retreat for the CCRNO, Charismatic Catholic Renewal of New Orleans. Big retreat, and it was I had no interest in getting closer with God. I wanted to get closer with Elizabeth, and that's why I went. And I remember being really disinterested pretty much the whole trip. I mean, I enjoyed hanging out with a couple of friends, seeing her, that was great, but no movement, no spiritual movement. Towards the end of the retreat, there was this, if you're not familiar with it, it's called being slain in the spirit. You've probably seen it. It's where people touch your head and people fall backwards, right? So that was what we were to be slain in the spirit that day. It was a big deal. Everybody was really excited. Some big famous priest who, I don't know, was coming. Everybody was really excited to see this guy. So I got in line. I mean, it was a really, really long line. And I remember watching everybody just, I don't know. I had a lot of skepticism, to be quite honest. By the time it got up to me, I'm standing in front of this little old man with a funny hat, and he's praying for me. And I don't know if it was just that my heart was hardened. I don't know. But I felt nothing. Silence, nothing. Emptiness. And then I started feeling him pushing me on the head because I wasn't cooperating. So, you push me, I push back. I mean, I didn't push him, but, I just kind of resisted. And so, he said a blessing and sent me off a doubter, a complete doubter. I walked out of that church. Losing my place again. I walked out of that church. Sorry, y'all. Yeah, so outside the church, my faith came tumbling down. I mean, I was thinking, like, what a scam. What am I? What a scam. I was surprised how heartbroken it made me to think that, like, this priest, in my perception, my teenage perception at the time, this priest didn't have enough faith to, like, let God do his thing. He was, I'm gonna throw you on the ground. I was young, and so I'm not saying I was interpreting this all right, but that's what was going on in my head. Excuse me. Somewhere, and I don't know from where, well, somewhere I know from where, but I wasn't expecting it, but muffled by the sounds of the bricks of my faith crumbling within me, a voice, barely audible, just hidden in a wind almost, broke through as a whisper. Get back in line. Many of you don't know me well enough to know how much I despise being in lines. I hate waiting for anything. But there was that voice, and for some reason, that day it compelled me. So I got back in line. There I was, joining the end of the line. It was in that moment that I had this talk with God, and I think that probably more than just me have had this talk. Real arrogant. Like, okay, God, this is your chance. Prove yourself to me. Crazy. I feel so arrogant even saying that now, but again, I was a teenager. But here's the thing, and I won't say a whole lot of things with this much confidence. God heard me that day. By the time I made it up to the priest, I can't explain it. Before he could get his hand past his hip, something rushed through my body and threw me backwards. The people weren't even ready to catch me. You know what I mean? There are people back there to catch you so you don't hit the floor. They weren't really ready. They caught me, I guess. I don't really know, because I laid on the floor for like 20 minutes. Maybe I was unconscious. I don't know. But while I was laying there and I was having, I can't express how it feels, or that feeling, but I hope that people know what I'm talking about. There was one thing that was very clear to me in that moment. And this isn't to say anything negative about the priest or the facility or anything. God wanted me to know that it had nothing to do with any of that, though. God wanted me to know that that was him. It wasn't the people, it wasn't the place, it was him. And I would say this would be the best time in the world to say I miraculously converted and became a super awesome guy. But no, actually, truthfully, I ended up getting a little bit worse. My lying became more and more manipulative. My lifestyle became more destructive. I started experimenting with drugs, and I know I say that like I had a lab coat on, but not so much. I'm going to tread lightly here because I don't want to overeducate anybody's kids. Simply put, the drugs of my choice made me feel empowered. They made me feel in control. My mood was in my control, even if it was fleeting. Maybe this is a time to briefly mention that when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with bipolar manic depressive disorder. And I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with that. Spare you a lot of unnecessary details. I'll sum it up. There's basically two types of bipolar. There's bipolar 2, which is the most common. It's characterized by bouts of depression with shorter bouts of what's called hypomania, which is kind of like a lesser, a toned-down version of a manic state. Not that it's completely toned down. It's still a dangerous problem for somebody to have. And then there's type 1, which is my type, which is it's similar, except you have true manic episodes. Which I really won't talk about the depression too much, because I think that people understand depression, but I genuinely think that mania is misunderstood. Manic states are misunderstood. I'd be lying if I said mania couldn't seem fun. I mean, you're hyper everything, super creative, super productive. You can do bold, outrageous things because you have no perception of danger and risk. In your teens and early 20s, mania is the cat's pajamas. It's when you have responsibilities, financial obligations, loved ones to care for. That's when it becomes a lot less cute. That's when you blow your rent money in 2 hours buying strangers drinks, or you have meaningless and dangerous one-night stands with people you wouldn't trust with your car keys, let alone your health. Or you go on a drug binge and forget to come home for a week. Maybe this time you slam your new car into a culvert because you think drinking and driving fast mix. By the end of a manic episode, I'm pretty sure the loved ones surrounding the person are praying for the depression to come back. And it always does. After a while, food loses its taste, smiles become harder to fake. And then, you're kind of trapped in yourself again. Most people with this condition can control it with medication. Due to my biochemistry and God's amazing sense of humor, I have paradoxical reactions to medications that should help my condition. Excuse me, I didn't mean to breathe in y'all's ear. With my love of control and the uncontrollable nature of my condition, I would self-medicate like crazy. Shrinks, rehab, AA, all completely ineffective in the beginning. And I blamed them at the time. I mean, I was going to die or get killed trying to live, so I had to do something. So I checked myself into an outpatient program. I had been in a lot of talk therapy. I'd done lots of money spent to make me normal, and none of it worked. This was like $50 a month. Kimya, my counselor, brought me to the truth. She helped me see myself for who I was, a liar, a cheat, a thief. Every idea I had about myself was crushed. She could have left me on the floor, but instead she picked me up, brushed me off, and said, "Don't worry, I know the way out." I will always credit Kimya with saving my life. She taught me the power of surrendering. I don't know that I bought it initially, but soon God would provide the opportunity to galvanize the lesson in my heart. There I was on the causeway. I was frantic, driving 90 miles an hour and accelerating because the thought of my newly ended relationship and her next choice of partner was too much for me to handle. And the images, they wouldn't stop. They were flashing in my head. It was just too much. And I thought the best thing to do would cut the wheel and end it all. I even checked to see if there were people around me. But the second before I did that, the second before I made that impulsive and final mistake, something happened. I don't know why. I let go of the wheel. I threw my hands in the air and I screamed, "I surrender. God, I surrender." I don't know how to communicate this to you, but the anxiety went away. My mind quieted. The images stopped. I started slowing down, and suddenly I wasn't alone in the car anymore. I mean, obviously I was the only person in the car, but I wasn't holding myself up anymore. Something was holding me. God was holding me. Believe me, I am a stubborn child. My parents will tell you, and my Heavenly Father would agree, certainly. I am still very much a work in progress, and I'm in nowhere near suggesting I have my defects of characters licked. But today, I don't do it alone. I have to remind myself constantly to let go and let God. Don't grip it too tight. It reminds me of a poster I saw in treatment center years and years ago, something like Right Out of the Far Side. It was a man dangling by one branch off the edge of a cliff. And he's staring at his hand, and obviously terror. And there's God's hand underneath his dangling feet. But obviously he's so focused on holding on to that branch, he doesn't see it. And the message on the poster says, "Let go." That was me. And unfortunately, it still is on occasion. I still slip back into old thinking. But my family, friends, my faith are with me now. God has given me a lot of painful lessons to make me who I am today, and I'm thankful for it. It's a result of God's infinite patience and mercy I'm able to say that today, or that I'm able to say anything. I am blessed to have an amazing family, an extraordinary wife who knows how to motivate me and knows how to tame me. I hear God louder in my life now than ever before, and I choose to be obedient. I don't have to be the best, I just have to be obedient. I'm gonna start wrapping up. I'm going to leave you with a thought. I've been recently reflecting on Exodus, more specifically the parting of the Red Sea, which arguably probably one of the more dramatic displays of God's power. But lately, that whisper, it's been guiding me to maybe contemplate it a little bit more deeply and put yourself there. Certain death on your back from an army of angry Egyptian soldiers, and in front of you, God lifts the seas and creates a path for you to cross to freedom. Really put yourself there. How unbelievably awing, how terrifying that sight must have been, too. 2 walls of rushing and crushing water held back by an invisible force that's telling you to trust it. But that's life, right? That's my life. It's about following and trusting. I can follow now. I may wander, and there are definitely many, many times that I grab the reins and try to take my life over again. But thankfully, I'm very bad at it, so can quickly see when things aren't going well. Let go and let God. Fundamental fact. And you can try this when you get home, just don't hurt anybody. If you hold your arm out straight like this, pretty much anybody in this room will be able to bend your elbow. But if I were to point my finger, suddenly my elbow is nearly unbendable. And why is that? Why would that happen? It's because when we're trying to avoid our elbow being bent, we're squeezing our hand. So much energy is going into the hand that we weaken ourselves somewhere else. But if you point your finger, your hand relaxes. And then you can focus on what you're trying to do. Sorry, y'all. Simply put, we have a tendency... I see I went off on a tangent. When I let go and follow where God leads me, I get where I'm going. When I try to control the world runs me over. Plain and simple. I am here because we have a loving and patient God. I am absolutely a product of God's mercy. Justice served, I'm in jail, a box, or if nothing else, a social pariah. But I'm not. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm in love. I'm happy. I'm hopeful. I am faithful now. And though I have my struggles, I do believe, because I know now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I am a child of God. That's all I got, y'all. Thank you so much, and thanks for not booing me off.